playtest night, our next playtest night, coming up on January 14th. I think that's actually live on Meetup and Eventbrite right now. So if you check it out, want to sign up, or there is also a link to a form where if you're interested in getting playtesters to your game, just fill out the form and we'll make sure you're in the mix. So to kick off our last demo, anyone have a guess as to what the most common question I get as organizer of the New York Gaming Meetup is?
How do you get your hair so nice?
A lot of work. Some magic. Some good genes.
How do you pick demos?
The most common question I get, I actually never get that question. How do I pick demos? I've never gotten that question. I remember. The most common question I get is this just web and mobile games, or are you also open to board and card and physical games? That is the most common question I get, by far. I probably get that question once a month. And the answer is emphatically yes. And people who have stuck around here long enough know that they're actually I'd say probably every 3 to 4 months we have someone showing off a board or a card game or something that really is primarily physical. So we have one of those tonight as our last demo. Yay. And going to hand off to Chris, who will tell you about his game and a Kickstarter he's currently running. Chris, take it away.
Awesome. How you doing, folks?
Hey,
We're gonna get through the night here. We're gonna get home safe after this wonderful snow. But folks, I am not a computer game or an app. So if you're looking for one, then no. All right. So I'm gonna play just a really quick minute of a video, just to get you into the theme and the feel of this game. This is not just your everyday Monopoly or Sorry. It's called Secrets of the Lost Tomb. And I think, well, let's let this show you a little bit. I'm not going to play the whole 3 minutes. Give you a little bit.
Every 113 years, the Gorgon's Head comet appears in our sky, triggering the return of an ancient and magical tomb that materializes in an unknown earthly location. This time, on an uncharted island somewhere in the center of the Bermuda Triangle. Secret societies, religious leaders, and those of great influence have anticipated the coming of the comet and the lost tomb for over 5 millennia. The tomb has many names: El Dorado, Shangri-La, Atlantis, Avalon, Mount Olympus, Valhalla. Older than civilization itself, it is a place where ancient artifacts, mystical treasures, and forbidden enlightenment have always been kept hidden away out of the hands of mankind. The Eternal Order of Perseus have...
On the Eternal Order of Perseus note, I know I could leave you there to watch the video, but I just want to, I know you want to talk to me. You can always go on the Kickstarter and check out the video anytime you want. It's up now for another 21 days, and I don't want to take up your whole time watching the videos. But I do want to talk a little bit about game design, board game design specifically. Now this game, who in here has ever played a board game other than Monopoly, like a designer type board game? Okay, great. Well, great to see you guys. Secrets of the Lost Tomb is a cross between Arkham Horror, Betrayal House on the Hill, and Indiana Jones. It's in the world of exploring and going on crazy expeditions to find this lost tomb. Okay, and we have created a game that uses a new system that has been used for a while, but we've kind of revitalized this system to really be able to focus on a random element that gives tons of replayability. So I focused really hard on trying to find great ways to give lots and lots of replayability while giving the gamer the feel of almost a role-playing game without having to have a DM or a game master of some sort. So you really can immerse yourself in a theme that is enjoyable and not overdone. The Indiana Jones theme, that cinematic pulp action adventure universe, has just not really been grasped and tapped the way that we would love. So we decided to really go into it and create this whole new mythos, this whole new world for folks to check out. So I just want to kind of give you a quick little scroll through, don't get dizzy now, of some of our stuff here. Now we have almost 20 different characters with ridiculous amount of background story written. And we've gone into really in-depth of this world to really create myths, legends, and compiling all of these different civilizations, all of these things that we all know, that we're kind of familiar with, and put a little bit of a new twist on it, a little bit of a new spin, and put it all in this tomb. This vault that's just filled with all kinds of things. We got the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. We got these draconian guys. We got Medusa herself. And as you heard in that video a little bit, it's the 3-tailed comet, okay? Basically, Perseus himself lobbed off her head and went flying into the sky and became like a comet, right? So that kind of calls upon when the coming of the tomb will be. So we got this whole backstory behind the world. And as you can see, we got a ton of art. We got miniatures that we're working on. This game has been in the works for months and months. We've been, well over the years, of course, writing different storylines and really compiling all this stuff. And yeah, so, I mean, I could sit here and scroll through all of our stuff and talk for about 10 years about this stuff, because, of course, this mythology goes on for thousands of years. But honestly, I really want to kind of get down here to the bottom. And we have tons of stuff here, some of our monsters. Herathulu, our own little Cthulhu dude, and Razazul, the alien immortal mummy, Pharaoh with the blue eyes, and we got the Lion Man, Forsaken King. Well, he's just forsaken by Zeus himself. Some crazy Colossus guys. But anyway, I'm going to get down here to the tiles. Don't get dizzy now. All right. All right, so yeah. So if you see here on the bottom right, you can see that those are the tiles. And basically what we do is we create a deck of tiles where you can kind of shuffle them together. And as you explore the tomb as a gamer, as a player, as a character in this cooperative game, does anybody here know what a cooperative board game is? One guy, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so a few people. A cooperative board game is not like your traditional board game where everybody's trying to cut each other's throats, send each other to jail, and not collect 200. It's actually where the gamers all play together against the board game that has its own AI. And we call it the tomb card. The tomb card is basically the AI of the board game, and it kind of runs the mechanics of how the monsters move, of how the players need to react and strategize together against the game. And it's all kind of on a time clock. Basically, the comet is moving through the sky, and when it gets to the end, throughout the amount of rounds that you play, something horrible happens, a big plot twist. Basically, the big boss monster might come running out to come rip all the adventurers to shreds, or anything could happen. Maybe the end of the world with the apocalypse. But basically, we have a crazy, ridiculous amount of content. And as I said, I can just sit here talking forever about it, but I really want to get your questions about maybe about Kickstarter, or about how to design a game, or how to create a story, or about game mechanics in general. I mean, this game, we've been working on for a really long time, so anything you can think of about creating a board game or a game or doing a Kickstarter, please ask away.
All right, let's take a couple of questions. First, just back here.
I'd love to hear a little bit more about the mechanics particularly, and how they work with the team, and if there are any problems with cooperative games that you've addressed, like where one player can kind of be the ringleader and tell everybody else what to do, that sort of thing. You said it was based on Arkham and Trail of House on the Hill. Which specific elements, or there's things you liked about those? I'd just like to hear more about the design of the mechanics. Yeah,
those are huge inspirations for us. Those are kind of like muses. Those are really big staples in the world of gaming. And what we decided to do was we took mechanics that we know and love, and we tried to simplify the doldrum of having so many phases, like in Arkham. There's just tons of phases that you have to deal with all this stuff. There's lots of downtime, 10, 15-minute turns, so you got one player sitting there doing their turn, strategizing, taking forever, and you got everybody else just sitting there just taking a nap, or somebody goes out for coffee, comes back 30 minutes later, they just got their turn yet. So that was one of our main concerns. We're like, look, we got to make these turns snappy. I wanted 2 or 3 minutes max, so that if you're playing a 6-player game, you want to have that cool social experience, where you're away from the computer for a little while, and you want to get together with your friends, that everybody's in the game and engaged. So some big things that we do to keep people engaged, we have something called the story card, which has adventures and misadventures. very interesting mechanics behind those. Basically, when you go into a room, you get a little story. So you walk in, it's like an event. And depending on the room you find, it could be a good thing or it could be a bad thing. And then basically you'll roll on your character. We don't have 50 million attributes. We just have 4 really base, strong attributes that we can actually balance in the game so that it's not a big, random element, so you can actually strategize together as cooperative players. Now, players who are the ringleader, they may get thrown off a little bit when you find a secret quest or a side quest in the game, because some players, when they're drawing adventure cards, they'll actually find little side quests so that they can kind of go off and make their own decisions if they want to. So you want to work together, but it really adapts itself to the player having lots of choices in the actions that they can take, but in only 2 phases. So you have basically the adventurers phase and then the tomb phase. So all the players go, where you take an action, the next person goes around in a circle, and then when everyone's taken all their actions, it becomes the tomb phase. So it keeps the game really moving and allows for people to strategize but not get too overbearing like we do see in a lot of games.
Another question. Brian first.
Thanks. So I have a Kickstarter question.
Yeah.
It looks like you got over 100% of the goal, like maybe in a matter of days. Is that?
It took 1 week exactly to
Yeah.
get to this amazing goal. We had a 43-day campaign, so this is where we're at now.
Okay. How did you do that? Because I'm not doing that. Do you think it's like all this content that you have on the page? Is it just the nature of how board games of like this level do it? Is it like certain outreach that you did? Like what do you attribute?
I went to your
success
Kickstarter and I checked it out because I saw we had fellow Kickstarter folks on here, and that's why I was talking to you earlier, and I kind of mentioned those things. Because with Kickstarter, I find that some people see it as just like a way to pre-order a game, and then there's others who are more like a philanthropist type person who really want to help support new companies. Now, for someone like myself with a board game with a ridiculous amount of content, we're able to structure tiers so that a gamer who maybe is not a millionaire and wants to just kind of help out, or like a family member or something, they could just get a t-shirt. And if somebody wants to just basically get the base game, they'll have that area that they could just basically pledge the base game, $55, $60. It may seem like a lot of money, but most people go out and buy Assassin's Creed for $60 like that, and basically a year later it's worth $15. So people get into the mindset, they understand that it takes a lot of money to create a board game, way more than it does to create a DVD, and basically if you can find a way to tier the different pledges so that you can fit everyone's desire, which is so hard to do, and get everybody basically happy. We have, if you take a look at it, we have it structured so that we have the get everything deal. Basically the Glory Seeker has a ridiculous retail savings, because later when it does come out, each thing is going to be packaged separately. It's going to each cost a different amount of money. It's kind of like getting the add-ons all together when you get Borderlands. You went and bought it, and you got all of the expansion packs when you purchase the game. This is kind of the same kind of thing where you get everything. You're going to get miniatures. You're going to get all kinds of stuff that you include. With an app, it's a little bit more complex to try to figure out what else could I give this person, what else can I do to make them want to really invest in us.
And is this your most popular pledge level?
This pledge level, yeah. The Glory Seeker and the Fortune Hunter are the most popular pledge levels. Board gamers are completionists, they really want to have all the stuff, and I don't blame them, I'm the same way. I honestly am the same way. I have all the miniatures for Arkham Horror, I got all the stuff, so, you really get into it and you invest yourself into it, but the cool thing about board games is that this stuff holds value. One recommendation I would say to you is to have people be able to have an ability to personalize themselves into the game. Like, for instance, allowing them to name themselves after a wrestler. I have a section in the Kickstarter called the Legendary, which is all the way at the bottom of all the pledges. And the Legendary here, and also the Mythical Demigod, allow you to not only get all the stuff like in the Glory Seeker, but for a couple more bucks, which really, honestly, it's not about profit, it's about letting people get into the game and giving that player interaction and that immortality to be in there. Basically, they can become a character. And you saw some of the character art, in the game. Like, for instance, we'll have our artist create a rendition of yourself and put you in the game, make a character with you, you know, and all that stuff. And that's kind of like something that, you know, other games can do, even if you don't have a ridiculous amount of content. Great idea putting the links in there. You know, you might want to really highlight that and say, you know, if you got a Kickstarter, if you're you know, you have a website you want to put in, you know, we'll put your link in the game forever. It'll always be in there. And those kind of little things help people want to, you know, join in the cause so they understand that they're helping start something new. You know?
How'd you come up with 50,000?
50,000, honestly, is what it costs to make the game and ship it to people. You know, it costs a lot of money to make a board game. We looked all over the place. I got quotes from China. I got quotes from America. I got quotes from Germany. And the amount of money that it costs to actually print a game, get it to somebody, is a lot of money. And we had to look into a bunch of different things, little secrets like Amazon fulfillment, for instance. They can ship around the world. Whereas if you try to ship it from the US, it costs a ridiculous amount of money. You have to be very careful on Kickstarter with shipping, because it immediately can turn people off. There's a lot of very interesting things that you have to really be able to understand, to look at, to get those numbers. And I've heard lots of horror stories. I was just at a big convention called Metatopia in New Jersey. It's a game convention that is all about game design, all about board games and all kinds of different games. Basically, it's a game designers convention called Metatopia, where people just go for the weekend and test their games. People are specifically chosen for specific genres of games. And basically, at Metatopia, Kickstarter came down from corporate, and they told us all this stuff, and we've heard from a whole bunch of Kickstarters, and basically they say that there's all kinds of crazy horror stories that can happen where, you know, they didn't plan ahead, they didn't budget it out properly, you know, they said, oh, okay, we can do this game with $3,000 or $10,000, and they didn't think about shipping. They offer free shipping, and then it costs $70 to ship to Singapore. You know, I just lost 10 backers by shipping to one person, and those things just need to be held, you know, into the high regard. We're trying to build a new company. This is Everything Epic Games, everythingepicgames.com. You know, we're trying to create something and then build upon that. It's not about becoming a millionaire overnight. It's about making an awesome, really high quality product that's cool, that's like part of our dream, and to get it to our fans and to really have that steamroll and hopefully make tons of awesome games in the future.
Looks great so far. I'm actually curious. You mentioned that it was based on like Betrayal in the House on the Hill, kind of as an inspiration, and a few others. Do you have any plan of, you didn't get into this, but is there that moment where one player becomes the villain, or where they're always the villain, or like what kind of mechanics do you have kind of along that line?
Well, one really cool thing we did about the game is that it's ultra versatile. The game can kind of go in any direction. We have a lot of cooperative adventures where it's strictly cooperative. You have a cool boss monster, everybody fights it. We also created competitive modes of play, because why the heck not? The game is modular. It's got tons of random awesome tiles. We can do anything we want. We can create these adventure scripts that basically have two different difficulty levels, but we also have competitive modes of play where everybody runs into the tomb and you try to kill as many monsters as you can, find as many items in a time limit, basically a certain amount of turns, and get out before the comet leaves the sky and the tomb disappears. That's just one option, but if you think about video games, things like capture the flag, we got capture the grail. Run in, get the grail, and as soon as you get it, friendly fire's on, so everybody goes after each other. I mean, that kind of solves the problem when you have 3 people in a game group where they're like, oh man, I really want to play, you know, a cooperative game, and you got 3 other people who are like, oh man, cooperative games. And then you say, all right, well, let's have the compromise. Let's play a competitive game within this really awesome universe that we all like. You know, so we have those modes of play there already, but we do have some cool trader elements in certain adventure scripts as well. And there's just, because the opportunity is there, we can basically do anything with the characters, anything with the story. So it's cool, really cool. We're even thinking about making a fan-based or fan-created blogosphere where people can kind of join in and create their own adventures, that we can have cool competitions or you know, polls where people who can vote for the best adventure will actually print it, or make a print-and-play version, for instance. So, you know, the opportunity is just endless with Secrets of the Lost Tomb.
So how are you making all this? Do you have a 3D printer, or are you selling it just directly, or are you going to like sell it at these like board game cafes that are popping up? I was like, how are you planning to get this to people?
Well, I mean, for instance, the people who back will fulfill those orders. So we'll have the game printed over wherever we get the chance to print it, because there's, you know, so many different quotes and things to come up with. But places like, for instance, like China, you have to put it on the barge, get the barge all the way over here to America, and then ship it out. Or you bring it to the different fulfillment centers and they ship it out, if you're specifically talking about physical shipping. Otherwise, we go through distributors. I mean, with board games, you have to actually work with a distributor to really get those into all the retail stores, because as a board game company, it's almost logistically impossible to work with all the board game stores and advertise your game in that way, unless you're a monopoly or you have a really cool in at Target or Walmart, and then then things are really good. But it's basically all about distribution, and it's about finding the proper way to fulfill it, so you don't have to up your prices to an astronomical cost to get something to Singapore. You actually can an Asian fulfillment center that can help you with those customers.
So do you have a manufacturing partner as well, or?
We have a couple of different manufacturers that we're trying to work with. I mean, we're working with a couple different manufacturers because we have things like miniatures that sometimes can't be manufactured in the same plant. We have custom dice, which are like really cool and scroll dice, so those have to be molded. We have a 3D artist. We have the tile artist, one of our partners, named Jim Sammartino from Ninjas.com, Ninjas Production Studios. He does almost all of the artwork that you see, from the box design to the tiles, to even the video editing. It's hard to show all that stuff, but there's so many different things and cardboard to manufacture in places like China or in Germany, for instance, which we're also considering and looking at different things like that. So, there's a lot of different factors when it comes to making a board game. Even child safety. You have to look at things like testing it for child safety. How does that work? Well, if you have it over 13 years old, you don't have to worry about that piece. But for a game like this, it's great. If you were trying to make an educational game, that's another factor. So there's a huge amount of factors. And then, of course, quality control. How do you make sure that your game is great? You have to work with the really good manufacturer that you can trust. It's not going to put lead into your game or some kind of toxic waste or something like that. So it's a lot of research. It's a lot of online time, blurry eyes on the computer screen. But it can really pay off if you find really cool manufacturing partners to work with.
Okay. Last question.
I played Oregon Trail a lot as a kid, and I was wondering, I remember if you moved too fast in that game, you might break your leg, and so something terrible would happen, but also if you move too slow, I think Indians or something catch up to you and kill you. What are the negatives if you move too fast or too slow in the game for your turn?
I mean, I also loved Oregon Trail when I was a kid. It's great stuff. And believe it or not, there was a Kickstarter recently on called Westwardly or something to that effect. They were Oregon Trail board game, which was pretty cool. But relevant to that, for Secrets of the Lost Tomb, when you are traveling through the tomb and exploring new room tiles, basically the game starts with a couple of tiles out, and you start exploring tons of tiles. There's over 50 tiles with unique room tiles with unique art in the game, in just the base core game. There's another 60 some odd tiles, I think 69 more tiles in the game. So basically, the more you explore, the more rooms you can open up, the more items you can find, the more artifacts you'll find. It'll also probably be part of your mission objective to look around the tomb. However, it opens up more red danger level rooms with green, yellow, and red, stop, slow, go. And basically, the red rooms are where monsters can spawn. So every turn on that tomb tiles, the tomb's phase, when you have the tomb card, it spawns new monsters, it activates monsters, it moves monsters. So the more rooms you have open, you may be stronger, you may have found some cool stuff, but you'll also open up more places for monsters to pop out and chase you around. So there's a bunch of different factors. You can also find a lot of red rooms and hit a lot of misadventures. So you have to really strategically work with your group, if you're playing the cooperative version, to make sure that you're moving around the tomb and exploring in a hopefully strategic way to get those objectives done without getting falling into a quicksand or in a pit trap and ended up all by yourself with a giant monster in your face. So, if that helps.
Great. Chris, thank you. This is wonderful.